There's a lot of security to be able to go into a prison. There's like a ton of scanners and like all kinds of stuff and, cameras. Very secure.
Growing up with my dad working in and out of the prisons all the time, it kind of gave me a new respect for prisoners.
Seeing these women open up and talk about their situation was really moving. And they're not bad people. They've just made some bad decisions.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's TGIF. I hope you are having an amazing Friday. I got a late start and here I am. It's 3 o'clock. This video will get uploaded quite a bit later, and I did not have time to get ready today. So we're gonna stick with a voiceover because I got some tea that I want to share with you, and I had a little bit of a conversation with a Duggar friend that I also wanted to share with you because I think it'll give you a little bit of insight into what the inner circle of the Duggars thinks about Josh Duggar. Josh Duggar's 35th birthday was a week ago, and he has been sitting in the special housing unit at Seagaville for about a month now. And in that time, he has been in a room that's extremely small, 23 hours a day. He only gets a shower a couple days a week. He doesn't get much contact at all with anyone. There's not a lot to do, and it's really, for many people, the conditions in there are terrible. So if you were hoping that he would have at least some period of time during his incarceration where he wouldn't be living such a cushy life, this would be right now because of the decisions that he made that landed him there. Now, something that I've noticed a lot in my coverage of this family and of this group, and I hope most of you understand that my coverage of the Duggars isn't just about the Duggar family, but it's about a more global issue with the Institute in Basic Life Principles and the independent fundamentalist Baptist groups that have the similar beliefs to the IBLP and the systems of oppression and control that these groups have over women, children, even men, but the men are the sole beneficiary of all the power. So when I speak to the Duggars, I'm trying to speak to a larger issue, which is these groups. So when it comes to Josh Duggar's situation, he's not the first, and he certainly won't be the last of men involved in these groups that ends up incarcerated. In fact, the Southern Baptist Convention had a guidepost, like independent investigation done, looking at any affiliated churches, whether it was an independent fundamentalist Baptist or one of their SBC churches, Southern Baptist Convention. And they have a massive problem with individuals in their church and men doing things to children and covering it up. So the situation that you're seeing with Josh is just a symptom of a wider problem and a group and a culture that protects men like Josh. But sometimes they do get caught, but when they do get caught, they're given excuses like it was a mistake or they made bad choices. Josh Duggar and his family and the IBLP actually have been involved in prison ministry. And the IBLP has this ministry where they go to prisons and they teach people what's called Journey to the Heart. And this is the same program that Jim Bob sent Jana and some of the sisters to. Ginger wrote about it in her book, Becoming Free Indeed, and they teach them that they have a heart problem. Bill Gothard made his career of going after and trying to solve the problems of troubled youth along with prisoners, feeling as though he could reform people as long as they could find God. Now, in theory, having a faith in God, or even just a spirituality, or just, having a higher moral compass is not a bad thing. The problem with these systems is that it tries to teach people that without God, the reasons why they did these things is because they fell out with God. And if you're with God, you won't make these decisions. And unfortunately, like, it's sort of like if you think about a person that sells snake oil or a miracle cure. If one thing could solve the problems for everything, nothing else would be needed. Sure, spirituality is a great thing to lean on, and a faith in God is a great thing to lean on if someone needs to do that, but it's not the answer for every life problem. Not all decisions are because someone doesn't believe in God or getting back to God will fix things. If that were the case, we wouldn't need doctors and we wouldn't need a justice system. It's just very black and white in their thinking. But that mentality has made it so that Josh, every single time that he got a problem, he was just told, all you have to do is become a Christian and you'll be back and right with God. And once they're able to convert these prisoners, they also have a huge population of people that have testimonies that can go on stage and become speakers for them, or share their stories and say, this person did this thing and then they found God and they turned their life around. It's sort of a manipulative tactic, and then it's also taking people in that have bad criminal histories into a group where they'll be protected as long as they say they're sorry. So it's kind of, I don't know what Bill Gothard, if he just felt like these are the target audience we want to go after, but he was very focused on prisoners. And what never sat right with me with this group is that they never spend time just doing things for people in need in their own communities. It's always like, let's go help a prisoner, but not let's go help a victim of a crime. Let's not go to, what about going to a domestic violence shelter or helping a woman that's had her husband hurt her, or a woman that's leaving her husband. You know, those are the things they just don't do. Or helping children that have gone through horrible things. Those are not their priority. It's like they want to reform people and make them come to God, and maybe it's a God complex. I'm not sure. Either way, that mentality has landed Josh Duggar in a predicament because he's never had accountability and he's always had an out, basically to excuse any of his bad behavior. And now he's found himself sitting in the special housing unit, and he's starting to see some ramifications for his choices. So let's dive into this topic. I'm about halfway through the video, and I just want to give you a slight reminder that if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure that you do by clicking on the subscribe button below, as well as if you want to be notified of when I upload new content, make sure that you click on the bell and leave some comments if you have something to say, and share this video with your friends. So let's talk about what's going on with Josh. I gave you sort of an understanding of like how the IBLP has had these prison ministries, and how Anna Duggar and her dad did prison ministry, and that actually played a role in, you know, Jim Bob sort of grooming Anna's dad into believing that if Josh, you know, he could come in with Michael and Michael could fix things, because Michael feels like he can fix things through God, and he writes books and he brings these books to prisoners. And Michael Keller's beliefs are so out there and they don't even make sense. Like, his explanation for addiction and for every problem that you have is not rooted in logic. It's not rooted in fact, and it's not rooted in scientific evidence. It's not rooted in any data. It's just rooted in his idealistic belief that God cures everything. So they had this belief they were going to cure Josh, and here we are. He's 35 years old now, and he is going to be in prison until 2032 at a minimum. So there's been a lot of rumors online about how Josh Duggar might have gotten a phone in the prison. And there's been so much speculation that Anna smuggled the phone in, and that she put it in a diaper, and that Josh somehow got the phone from the diaper and then he smuggled it in. Meetings and visits are highly secure. And so Anna is searched, and she goes through a metal detector. You can't bring your phone in. And so a phone that's in a diaper would still make the system go off. Not on top of that, Josh is strip searched before and after his visits to make sure that he, one, doesn't give any contraband or try to transfer something to Anna, and that once he's out, they get strip searched to make sure that they didn't get anything from their loved one. So it's very improbable that he received a phone from a visit with Anna or any of his friends. It's more probable and highly likely that the phones are brought in by guards that are rogue. And there's apparently quite a few guards at Seagoville and at a lot of these federal prisons that they're just not good guards, and they will do things for money, and they will bring phones in, and phones are $1,500. So it's more probable that Josh Duggar paid for a phone and got it from a guard than it is that Anna brought one in. And that's sort of how the system works, is almost all the contraband that comes in from the people I've talked to come in through guards that are corrupt. So Josh was caught with a phone sitting at his bunk, and he was not even trying to hide it, placed in the shoe in early February. And at this point, when you're in the shoe, you don't actually get until you have your hearing with the disciplinary board at the prison. Your sentence in the shoe doesn't count. And so it's until you get before the board. And then once you get to the board, then they say, okay, we're going to sentence you to 30 more days in the shoe or 60 more days in the shoe. And then on top of that, any fines or good time loss. They have all of the offenses listed in sort of categories as far as what are the most severe, what are the least severe. And bringing in contraband is one of the most severe. And losing good time is a complete option, as well as I told you in the past. So is getting new charges. There's been no new charges filed against Josh, but there has been some changes that have come forth, and that has been a change in his release. In some of the offenses, you can lose all of your good time for a year. You can lose half of your good time. You can lose a third of your good time, a fourth of your good time. It's really dependent about what the discipline team decides. And when Josh Duggar was put into Seagoville, his original release date was at August 12th, 2032. So how they come up with that number is they go to his full sentence, which was 144 months, and then they have to they times that by 85%. And so they're like, okay, he has to serve at least 85% of this, which is 10.6 years, okay? Once he serves that, that's the baseline of he has to serve this as a minimum. And then he earns good time, so they take it off from the beginning, and then they add it back on as he doesn't earn it. It doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm saying. So they put him in, and they said his release date would be assuming he has all good time, 85% of his sentence would have been August 12th, 2032. When you go to the website, you will see that it says August 22nd, 2032. So 10 days of his good time have been lost. And he is not even a year into serving at Seagoville. He got there in the beginning of July. So he hasn't even earned the full 50 some days a year that he would get for good time. So he's lost 10 days of his good time. And there could be more losses, and there also could be additional charges, or there could be, fines or losing privileges. He could also be transferred. But at this point, none of that has shown up. I did speak to Tim Snow, Texas Prison Stories, and he said that a lot of times you just have to keep updating, checking the BOP's website and check inmates, because a lot of times if they do get transferred, you'll see the transfer there before it'll ever be reported. And so he said that he's seen people transferred for less, so we'll have to wait and see. But I've spoken to people at Seagoville who've said that the guards are lazy, and they don't always get the sentences that they're supposed to get. So on top of that, Josh has lost 10 days for now. He's still in a shoe. He's in a very small room. He's by himself 23 hours a day. There's not a lot for him to do. He doesn't get to shower very much. He doesn't get to talk to people. It's very isolating, and it will make people literally go insane. Solitary confinement is very psychologically hard on people. So if you wanted him to do some hard time, that's what's happening right now. So one of the things that we've talked quite about on this channel is that there is this idea with the Duggars and with this group that, you know, Josh Duggar, there's a lot of conspiracies that have gone on. There's a lot of downplaying and placating Josh's crimes. And I was speaking to a friend of the Duggars today, who I'm going to keep anonymous, but you would know who this person is if I told you. And the exchange was very interesting because we started talking about Josh. And this person is always incredibly, I would say, the way that they view things is very different than I would view things and the way that others would view things. And it's very influenced, I think, by Jim Bob. And I made a comment to them and I said, Josh is in prison for CSAM. He abused his sisters and his dad helped cover those crimes. That's what it seems. Because this person told me that not everything about the Duggars is what you seem. This person said, okay, it sounds like the people who made mistakes are paying for them. So if they're in jail, then how am I still associating with them? Because I made a comment about, like, do you ever worry or concerned about, like, the company you keep? They said everyone makes mistakes and everyone is different. It's what makes us unique. So when I brought up the stuff about Josh and intentionally downloading stuff, they attributed that to a mistake. And then I said, it's not a mistake to download CSAM, and it's not a mistake to SA your sisters. And then so they changed directions and said, so what is it then? If you go out on the town and you have a couple drinks and you drive home and killed someone, what is that called? I'm sure when you hopped in the car, you didn't plan on killing somebody. By the end of the day, you made a mistake. So to me, a mistake feels like something you would say when you don't intentionally do something. If you intentionally make a choice to put other people's lives in danger, or if you intentionally make a choice to go online and to download content that contains some of the worst content online, that's not a mistake. That's an intentional decision. A mistake implies that you didn't mean to do it. And to me, Josh meant to do it. But attributing a DUI crash to downloading CSAM and then calling both a mistake, sure, if that's how someone wants to justify it, but it was a choice. They also said, if I go out and murder somebody, what is that called? Called murder, right? It could still be a mistake. You can have regrets in life. You can have things that you mistakenly do, but it's not a mistake to intentionally commit crimes. And I think that's the concern I have when you think about this group, is that they don't look at choices as good or bad. It's a mistake that they can repent from and move on from and be reformed and restored, which reduces culpability and it reduces somebody's liability, and it helps someone have an out. Like, I didn't mean to download that stuff, Judge. It was a mistake. Or I mistakenly hopped on this website and this just happened to pop up. I didn't mean to. That's not a mistake. It's not a mistake, the choices Josh made. And when you make these sort of non sequitur correlations, it's like you play mental gymnastics. And then when I asked about the victims and how do you, like, when people want accountability for them and when people want justice and when you're talking about a whole system that's abusing people, their response was to forgive and forget. It's called forgive and forget. Don't get me wrong. The people that did things to women or to girls should pay for what they did. But what about all of the other people's lives? You're making miserable because you're bringing up things from the past all over again. So referring to how my reporting on this cult and the abuses that happen and the numbers of people that have been hurt, it's hurting other people by bringing it up. So instead, we're just supposed to ignore it because it happened in the past. And so that's just another way that they can cover things up. If we just forget about it and we don't talk about it, then nobody will be held accountable. To me, they also said that if you don't forgive your accuser, that you'll hold bitterness. Because I said, no one has to forgive a man for essaying them. And they said, no one has to forgive. But if you don't forgive, you live in bitterness for the rest of your life. But then again, if you don't believe in God, then I guess everything you're saying makes perfect sense. So it's a mistake. And if you don't forgive your abuser, you'll be bitter. I just want to tell people that literally, like, you can let go of the trauma and you can let go of the past, but you don't have to think that you have to forgive someone. You don't have to like trust someone. You don't have to respect someone. You don't have to ever forgive someone. And not forgiving someone doesn't make you a terrible person. It just means that you've set a boundary and you don't want to be associated with them. And you've remembered what they've done to you. You don't have to forgive people for doing bad things. No, you don't have to let it eat you alive, but you don't have to forgive. And this whole idea that forgiveness makes you bitter and not forgiving makes you bitter is what Gothard does. He's taught people that if you are a victim and you can't let it go, you're bitter. But guess what? You're not bitter. You want accountability. Something bad happened and you're right to be mad about it. Do you let it drive you and eat you up alive at night? I hope not, but that doesn't mean you are bitter. It's okay to talk about things. And this cult wants people to just say, it was a mistake, you're just bitter, and you're ruining people's lives by reporting on this. So that's sort of the mindset of what the Duggars think about the reporting about them, allegedly. So Josh Duggar loses 10 days. And his insiders say, well, it was a mistake and everyone should just forgive him because you're bitter. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.